Here, coming at you with my latest vlog right in the middle of a ton of snow here in Nova Scotia. It's really cold and not so great, and yeah, we're home just kind of battening down the hatches, hanging out. So before I get into the vlog, I just want to give you an update on some of the cool stuff going on with our company. One thing is that we've always had a mobile mermaid school where we would go around, and so typically a mermaid school is like an hour a week for like 10 weeks or something. Well, we would do workshop weekends where it was basically what you would get in a 10-week course in 2 or 3 days. So we did that a lot for the Girls Empowerment Workshop that we did in New Brunswick, which is pretty cool, and CBC did an article about us. It was lots of fun. This year I had Mermaid Emma did it for the first time, and we had Merwrangler Steve with us, so that was cool. But yeah, typically we would take what we do in 10 weeks and put it into, you know, a 2-day, 3-day period. So we would do that all over the province, all over different pools, different recreational facilities, community centers, stuff like that. So we did that for the longest time. I didn't want to nail things down to a weekly lesson because of my schedule, and because back then I didn't have as many mermaids working for me, and it would have really meant just me doing everything by myself and not having the support I needed, and it would mean I would have to sacrifice some of the other stuff I was doing. So for us, the mobile mermaid school worked really well. Now we've decided to do a weekly mermaid school for 5-week sessions, 2 back-to-back 5-week sessions, so technically 10. And we're just going to start with school age because I really want to focus on monofin safety for children. And I'm going to be working with swim instructors and lifeguards and Sean, and it's going to be really good just in the evenings at Dartmouth Sportsplex. We're really excited, and really it's just that the opportunity came around at the right time in our lives to be able to do this. So it's really cool. So if you're in the Dartmouth, Halifax area, I hope you will check it out. You can find the info on our website, halifaxmermaids.com. The other cool thing we're doing is a study with Dalhousie University with the engineering department on mermaid tails. I can't go into huge amounts of detail. I'm kind of getting frustrated because people are making a lot of assumptions and they have a lot of hopes and dreams for what the study is, but it's an engineering-based study, and it's only looking at the Merbella's company tails, and it's only looking at Finis monofins for the time being, and I don't know if we're ever going to expand anything because even just that is a huge amount of work. So it's involving our whole team, and then a whole team of engineers and scientists, and the whole team at the Aquatron. I'm going to have a separate video all about that totally, because it's just so much to cover, and we took a lot of really cool behind the scenes like sciencey videos and videos of us doing the testing, and we interviewed some scientists and talked with the engineers, so it's actually going to be its own video series. I'm going to start doing like almost sort of like a TV series. Like, you know how you can see all these mermaid videos on TV and it's kids and stuff and they're making their own little like video, and it's like Mermaid Miracles Season 1 Episode 1. Well, this is going to be like Life of a Mermaid Season 1 Episode 1, The Aquatron. And because it's just, the content is so big and so cool and so detailed that it just can't be done in like a 10-minute vlog. It's going to be like a 45-minute episode, like what you would get on TV with something. So we're going to start taking some of our bigger projects like that, and I'm going to be turning them into this video series so that you can see it all. I think it's really cool. And of course, I'm publishing a 3rd book, so it's going to, you know, some of that stuff is going to end up in there, and we'll talk about the 3rd book later. So those are the cool things going on with us. I've got the lovely blue Splash Merbella's tail here in the background that we have. It doesn't get enough airtime with our company because not everybody fits in it. I don't. I wish I did. So today's vlog is going to be all about, I'm always asked how I handle chronic illness and chronic pain and technically being disabled. So I want to talk to you about the role that sort of stuff plays in my life and in the mermaid world, and my advice to other people who cope with that as well. So I was born premature, and as a result my immune system didn't develop properly. I think if you're familiar with my story just from reading articles and things, you know that I had a very difficult upbringing, and so I have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. And for people, when they develop PTSD as a child, it can change the way that you develop, it can influence your immune system, it can cause all these later life problems. So even though the issues I faced as a child are no longer present, I still deal with a lot of physical ramifications of what I lived through. So having this weakened immune system and sort of, you know, what that had done to me as well, I ended up developing a lot of different illnesses as I grew older. And when I was a kid, I was in the hospital a lot. I was sick a lot. I really hated going to the doctor because every time I did, I got a needle or something. Like, it was not good. So when, you see my little videos with little Miss K, I really appreciate the journey she's going on, because I went through something similar and it really sucked. And I was really lucky when I was a kid that Dream Come True sent me to Disney because they... because they saw, that I was sort of underprivileged in what I was going through, and it was really awesome. So I love being able to do something cool for kids going through that. So I'll talk about my diagnoses. I don't usually explain them all to people because they're kind of intense, but for the purpose of this video I will. So I have general autoimmune disorder, which means that my autoimmune system doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Healthy parts of my body attack other healthy parts of my body because they see it as an invader, and it causes problems. So I have interstitial cystitis, which is really fun. It's a bladder disease. No, I don't pee myself, I promise. Imagine having a bladder infection for your whole entire life, and that's what interstitial cystitis basically is. It's putting a constant strain on your body because your body is acting like it's got an infection, and so it weakens your immune system, so you end up getting colds and flus and things like that easier. It causes a lot of pain in the abdominal area and in the back, and it causes a lot of pelvic pain because what happens is, think about what it's like when you have to pee really bad and you hold it because you don't want to pee and you're trying to make it to the bathroom. My body basically does that 24/7. So all those muscles, my back muscles, the front muscles, the sides, the hips, everything is just kind of like... And you can imagine that being in a mermaid tail that also puts pressure on all those areas doesn't actually help very much. Just having that constant, especially if I'm in my tail for 2 hours or something, and having that pressure against an area that's already so tense. So yeah, I don't actually have bladder infections, but the symptoms are very similar to that. I don't even think I've ever had a bladder infection in my whole life. If you've ever had a canker sore in your mouth, it's basically like my bladder is full of those. And certain foods that I can eat can cause those canker sores to grow, and then certain foods that I can eat can irritate those canker sores. So I have to eat a really restricted diet. One of the meds for it is similar to chemotherapy, and it makes your hair fall out, and it may not work. Many of the people I talk to, some of them find it works, but most of them don't. I have a few mermaid friends who also have interstitial cystitis, and they take this drug and they do find it works, so I'm really happy for them. I'm really lucky in that I've been really aggressive with how I've been treating it and my diet and stuff like that, and I had the right kind of help. For some people, interstitial cystitis, it has stages. It can get to an end stage where people are having to have catheters and having to have numbing solutions put up there, and some people are so bad that they look at actually removing their bladder. So I'm really lucky that it's not that bad for me. Basically for me, it's just really annoying and it hurts a lot. I don't sleep very well because it makes me wake up. I pee a lot, which is really inconvenient, and it puts strain on my muscles and my body. So, I have the diet end of things. I try to do whatever I can to boost my immune system. I do massage, I do physiotherapy, I do things called floats, which are awesome. What else do I do? Chiropractor actually helps quite a bit for me for that because of the things get knocked out of joint, because I also have scoliosis. So yeah, I've got a curve in my spine, and while it wasn't bad enough to actually put a rod or anything, and I didn't even know I had scoliosis until I was an adult and had an x-ray done, but it explained a lot because I have a lot of numbness, a lot of losing the ability to use either leg at different times. My hips will go one way or the other. So it's not bad enough to have surgery, but it's bad enough that it still causes a lot of pain, and it's really annoying, and it makes the bladder disease a lot more difficult. So when I go to the chiropractor, they just kind of pop things back in, and then it feels a little better for a while, which is nice. There's no cure for either of these things for me, so it's just sort of stuck with it for now. People who have interstitial cystitis who are women often also get endometriosis, which really sucks. So where my bladder was attacking itself, my uterus also attacks itself. Endometriosis is one of the most prominent diseases for women, very underdiagnosed. It takes women on average 10 years to get diagnosed because the medical system I've done a lot of research on it. The medical system is not really geared towards reproductive health for women, which really sucks. So endometriosis affects your fertility. It also causes you significant amount of pain. If you read my second book, I talked a lot about having endo and being in the hospital. Hey, little kitty. And just having it ruin my life. It was horrible. So it's characterized by really terrible abdominal pain, and we're talking like opiate painkillers don't do anything. I was in the hospital a lot. Sean would take me. They really did nothing to help me most times when I was in the hospital. One time it was particularly bad. They put me on Dilaudid, and it really just took the edge off, and I was taking the max dose, and I was getting an IV, and they were saying this should not still be hurting you, and it was horrible. I suffered with that for almost a decade. It made me really depressed because I couldn't have a normal life, and it would flare up and it would cause the interstitial cystitis to flare up, so it was just absolutely brutal. My heart goes out to anybody who has it, because it's just, you can't understand how bad it is until you have it. So basically they don't really know what causes endometriosis, but uterine tissue that is supposed to stay in your uterus moves around to other parts of your body, and it can go to crazy places. Like, I'm fairly certain I have some in my leg because I have sciatica, and it would flare up only when my endo flared up, so that's a sign that like that tissue is bleeding and like pulsing, and it's putting pressure on my sciatic nerve. I'm pretty sure I have it in my sternum, because that's where I would get the worst pain. It just felt like somebody was like driving a knife through my sternum all the time. And then obviously all through your stomach and your other organs. And what happens is your organs are supposed to slip around and move, and the endo tissue would fuse things together so they don't move very well. And again, this like affects your overall immune system, because your body is constantly fighting this invader, or it thinks it's an invader, and so you're more susceptible to get other things. So I used to get so sick all the time. So basically, if you've read my book, what happened with the endo is I went to the emergency a million times, and one time Sean and I couldn't take it anymore. He took me in the middle of a snowstorm, and it was so bad that the police were saying, you know, stay off the road. It took us forever to get to the hospital. We were like the only people there. And the doctor, I think because we went to such extreme lengths to get there, actually took me seriously for a change. And I think when people come in to emergency looking for pain management, especially chronic pain, they're often seen as like drug addict potentials, because you want something to stop pain, and people will make up all kinds of reasons if they're a drug addict to get prescribed pain medication. But I was basically coming in saying, don't give me that, it hurts my stomach, because not only am I having endometriosis, you've given me so many painkillers already that it has destroyed my esophagus, it's destroyed my stomach, it's burned everything, I can't eat, I've throwing up, I'm blacking out, like it was just awful. So not only do I get the endo pain and the bladder pain, now my stomach hurts and my esophagus hurts, so don't give me painkillers. So I got referred to the IWK, which is typically for children, but they also deal with some aspects of women's health when it comes to pregnancy and stuff. So I got to see a doctor there, and I had a 2-hour appointment with her, and it was amazing. It was really validating. It was the first time in like 10 years that someone actually sat down and listened to me and listened to all my symptoms, listened to all the things I tried, all the meds I tried, and believed me, and it was just like, you know, I wanted to cry. It was amazing. Sean was with me, and it just took like all day. It was such a long appointment. Anyway, she prescribed a brand new drug on the market, and for anyone who has endo, you have to ask about this drug. It's called Vyzan, and Vyzan is the first drug that is specifically made to treat endometriosis. So in the past, what people would do to treat endo is they'd tell you get pregnant, which really was not something we were going to do. And it doesn't cure the disease. It's just like get pregnant so that you can have like maybe 1.5 years without symptoms. So yeah, that didn't work. The other thing is that they typically try to put you into medical menopause. So I was in my 20s, didn't really feel like going through medical menopause. And then they also do hysterectomies, where they just take everything out. And guess what? For a lot of people, even when they do that and go through that horrible procedure and sacrifice being able to have children, it doesn't go away sometimes because the tissue is still all in your body. So they didn't do a laparoscopy. Like in Nova Scotia, it seems like they really avoid doing laps because it seems like nobody is skilled enough to do it. So they didn't do that. They just decided, we're going to try you on this drug because there's not a huge amount of side effects, and if it works really well, then you do have endo, and we know that this is going to help you. So I really had no hopes. I tried this drug, and it changed my whole life. Like, I can't even tell you how bad the endo was. I was definitely suicidal because of it. I used to just not think life was worth living because I was in so much physical pain all the time. And when I would have these moments, it was just like in those pain moments, I just didn't want to be alive anymore because it was so painful. So this drug is the first drug on the market that is getting close to actually curing the disease. It's actually shrinking the tissue and it's staying away longer. And the longer you are on the drug, the better, like the bigger window you have when you stop taking it before the endo comes back. And people who have severe endo and aren't able to have kids are taking this drug and then they're able to have kids afterwards. And I've had no side effects from it, like no weight gain, no disgusting stomach feeling, no pimples, no hair falling out, no nothing. So it really, really changed my life. So the main way that endo still affects me now is that it just weakens my immune system. You can't fix that stuff. So I also have fibromyalgia. Yay, fun! A lot of mermaids seem to have fibromyalgia. I think we are mermaids because water soothes the symptoms of fibromyalgia. I have no idea why I have fibromyalgia. I've read lots about it. It seems to be this real enigma of a disorder, disease, whatever. It's basically like a nerve problem. I get a lot of physical pain all over my body. I get a lot of tinglies. I get a lot of muscle cramps. I'm really tired all the time. Like, I can't even explain to you how tired I am. I feel like I never sleep, and I can sleep for 12 hours and be up for 4 and then be tired. So yeah, that's really tricky. So the way that these things affect mermaid work is that, especially for the endo, before I started getting treatments, I'd be in pain and I would have to miss gigs because I was in the hospital and stuff like that. And now that I'm more in remission and I'm more treating these things, I'm more dealing with the annoying symptoms, so not necessarily like life-threatening or ruining my life or keeping me from doing things, but I'm really tired all the time. I get sick really easily. I get kind of cranky, and Sean's really nice and puts up with it. I think because I live with pain all the time that I often don't recognize when my pain spikes, and then the people around me realize I'm having a bad pain day because I'm kind of mean, and I'm working on that. It's really hard. I'm sure anybody else out there who has chronic pain understands. It's hard to watch your tone when you feel crappy. So when I go to do a gig, it doesn't matter that I'm in chronic pain, and I can't have a crappy tone with kids. So it actually is really hard, you know? Sometimes it takes all my effort just to get to the gig, and I've had gigs where I've cried before I've gone to the gig because I feel so miserable, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But the cool thing about working with kids is that they're so happy to see a mermaid that it just completely turns things around for you. I can be having the worst day and be feeling so horrible, and I tell myself it's just an hour and the water makes you feel better. You can do this. And it's true. I get in that water and my muscles release and I get these happy endorphins because I'm moving. And then kids are so happy and so excited to see me that that's just what happens. Like, I'm able to do it, you know? I've had to change my whole life to accommodate my illnesses, you know, change my diet, my sleeping patterns, make sure I'm not at risk for things. I do physio, I do massage, I do chiro, I do other things that I can't even think of, I'm sure. I talk to a therapist off and on because when you're dealing with these things chronically, it can get inside your head. I have mentors, and I went to support groups. Sean used to take me to a chronic pain support group. I don't actually take painkillers anymore because they destroyed my stomach, so that's kind of hard because I tend to tough out the pain, and only once in a while will I take the pain meds. You know, I've tried some nerve pain meds and things. I've tried a lot of meds and had a lot of awful side effects, and sometimes the side effects are just worse than the actual disease, so I tend to just tough it out. But to anyone who takes meds, like, all the power to you, whatever you need to do to feel good. The big problem for me was I took a medication for a while called Elavil, which helps get rid of pain, and it also helps manage depression, but it made me really sluggish and really kind of hazy and really tired, and I had a really hard time doing gigs like that because it took me so long to get out of the funk, and then I'd come home and be so tired and just pass out, and it also made you eat a lot, so I gained a lot of weight, which was really hard if you have a silicone mermaid tail and your weight fluctuates. That's a tricky thing. But you know, in terms of running a business, it's really, really hard. Interstitial cystitis alone, just that one disease, qualifies me for disability. So a lot of people who have just the one disease find that they have to go on disability. And so here I am running a business, and then I often take on contract work, which is either full-time or part-time. So I'm just tired a lot, have no energy. Yeah, so it's not easy, and people look at me and they're just like, oh, I wish I could do what you do, or I'm really sick and I don't know how you do it. Well, guess what? I don't know how I do it either. I really want this, I really love it, and to me, all the pain and sickness and everything is worth it because I get so much out of it. But you shouldn't feel pressured to have like a huge business or do this huge thing. Kitties. Especially if you have chronic illness. Like, I worked myself up to this point to where I am now, and I'm kind of hovering on that edge of too much, you know, so I kind of have to scale back and let my girls do things. But you can take things on as you see it, you know, do some volunteer gigs, or just be a mermaid recreationally. There's no pressure that you have to have this big business. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it is hard. It's hard to cope, and I know people much worse than I have, like, so crazy. I know people who have so many health problems and they still try to do the mermaid thing. You know, and you have to recognize when you have chronic health problems that you're not always going to be happy, and you have to watch for signs, and you need to have a good support network. You know, sometimes Sean will just have to say to me, like, you're not in a good place right now, and it's kind of like, oh, you're right, because I can't see it myself because I'm living in that reality all the time. So for anybody who wants to be a mermaid, I will say that being in the water is very therapeutic for most illnesses. Even if you don't even know how to swim, you might find that being in the bath is really helpful to you, magnesium baths, things like that. I think the sense of community really helps people with chronic illness because we often feel isolated, especially if you're somebody on disability who has to live at home and can't go out and do things often. Having communities like Mer Network and the Facebook groups and the whole mermaid world and going to the occasional meetup is really good. Knowing your limits and not being like me and pushing them all the time and then ending up totally like run down. So knowing your limits is important, and breaking things into smaller achievable chunks. You know, I've done all these cool things, but people often don't look at the fact that it's taken me 8 years, and I've got a whole team of people that help me. And I have like a whole team of professionals who support me. Like my doctors see my mermaid stuff. Like they know what I'm dealing with. One of the things I did recently that I want to talk about before this video ends is I decided to get a personal trainer. And part of that is fitness, you know, because I'm kind of like, I have a little trouble with the belly area and stuff. But part of it is also like I'm so tired of my hips not working properly. And so much of it is because they're just not being stretched properly, the muscle groups aren't being worked in the right way, the supporting muscle groups aren't being worked, and there's only so much you can do with, you know, massage therapy and stuff and physio. So I got a personal trainer. I see them twice a week. It's crazy how much my range of motion has increased. I don't think people think of personal training when they think of in terms of trying to help their mobility when they're sick. But holy cow, it's made a huge difference. It's really hard though. It's like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I go to these classes and I don't believe when he tells me you're going to be able to do this. I'm like, no, I'm not. You're totally lying. But I am. Like, I started off, like, for instance, deadlifting. Like, I'm not strong at all. Like, I am a noodle. Like, I also have dyspraxia, which is, like, it's part of, like, a learning disability, but also a physical thing, and it makes you basically like a noodle. Like, they call them, like, rubber kids, I think is what they call them when you're a kid and you have it. So, like, it's really hard for me to tone my muscles and get them to work properly and be coordinated. I can't even tie my shoes. Like, I know how to tie them, but, like, my fingers don't want to do it, which is, Harry Potter also has that, Daniel Radcliffe. But yeah, so anyway, I'm at the gym and I'm learning how to do deadlifts, and at first I do them with nothing and it's just my body going up, and then I do it with 10 pounds, and now I'm up to 60 pounds, and I feel like this amazing, like, She-Hulk woman because I can lift 60 pounds, and like Sean could lift like 280 or something, like, over his head. Meanwhile, I'm like, yeah, 60 pounds, yeah, 60 pounds. But I mean, it's cool. It's like I said, you have to bring it back to that whole breaking it into small, achievable chunks. And I've signed up for a year. I've only done a month, and my trainer says, in a year, you're going to be deadlifting 200 pounds. I don't believe him, but you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try. As Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try, so I guess I'm just going to do it. So yeah, give personal training a thought. So while I wrap up this video, I guess the other thing I wanted to say about chronic illness is that it can put a strain on you financially, which is really hard because medication is hard. I mean, we have it a little easier here in Canada because our healthcare, most of it is covered, but there's a lot that isn't. You know, my meds are really expensive. I don't have insurance. I have a little bit of debt because of that, and that puts a lot of stress on me because you kind of, well, do I stick with my mermaid dream, or do I go take this job and do the mermaid thing on the side because I need to pay for my meds, and I need to do this, and I need to pay for special physio treatment, and like, so yeah, it's hard. It's a crisis for sure, and people living with chronic illness and pain, like, we have to make these decisions on a regular basis, and it's more than just like, you know, do I follow the status quo or not? It's like my quality of life, right? So right now I'm not working full-time as a mermaid. I mean, technically I am, as I'm doing all this stuff, but you know, I took on this full-time contract because I needed a little bit of security to be able to pay for my health. So yeah. So anyway, other things. Third book is in the works. It's going to cover so much stuff. I'm really excited. It's going to be a companion guide to the first one. So it's going to be a workbook that you can actually fill out your information in, and when you're done, it's going to basically be your guide to a business and also like a business plan for you for your mermaid stuff. And you should be able to use it even if you're new to mermaiding and even if you're not. It's going to have tons of info that I didn't cover there because I wrote this years ago and I could only base it on the knowledge that was out then and my own experience. And now there's so much more knowledge and I have learned so much more myself. Get off that laptop, Charlie. Sorry, Charlie being bad. So yeah, so it's gonna be like probably like 2 or 3 times the size of this one. This book is like 150 pages. I'm really excited. I've been working so hard on it. I just did like a ginormous chapter on safety and it's great. My second book is still around. It's filled with stories about there's my Canadian for you. It's a year in my life of what it was like when I spent a whole year working as a professional mermaid, and that's all I did. And there's tons of stories in here, and there's also a lot of info as well, and I think it's a really good place to start if you need a sense of like, what is it like trying to do this. I'm always posting discount codes for these. You can find them on Learn to Be a Professional Mermaid on Facebook, and I also put them on halifaxmermaids.com. MakeMeAMermaid.com is our website with all our resources. You'll find all the vlogs there, you'll find my books there, you'll find tutorials there. ReinaMermaid.weebly.com is my personal blog, separate from the Halifax Mermaid Company. If you go there, you will find some of my personal stories and tutorials as well, things that don't make it into the book because they're kind of just too bite-sized, not really big enough, substantial to put into a book, but still really great info for you. And if you have questions, new video ideas, or things that you want me to cover in my book, please let me know so I can put that stuff in. I'm aiming to publish the book in May. We'll see how my schedule goes. Might be June, but I'm really hoping for May. And what else? You're all amazing. Thank you for watching. It's been like 27 minutes almost, and this is a long video, so thank you. But it's a big topic, right? It needs to be talked about. Check out the websites, and also Daphne did my new logos. Thank you so much, Daphne. They rock. I love them. You're the best.